Inheritance doesn't start with a will. It starts with a voice, soft, measured, telling you it's only paperwork, while it quietly rewrites your life. My name is Ava Sinclair, 34. I live far from the house with white columns and dark wood doors, where lemon oil smells like virtue. My grandmother died last week. I returned with a suitcase and a promise to behave. The moment I stepped inside, the house reminded me that behaving has always meant obeying. My mother, Celeste, kissed the air beside my cheek. "You look tired," she said. Family code for don't need me. My brother, Julian, arrived in a suit and a grin polished for donors. His fiancée, Camille, hovered with warm eyes that could turn cold without changing temperature. The attorney, Mr. Fielding, set up in the library, where the books are mostly decoration and the portraits stare like judges. "We convene at 9 tomorrow," he said. "Your grandmother's instructions will be honored to the letter." "To the letter," Celeste repeated, like letters salute her. At 2 a.m., I wandered. The study door was ajar. My grandmother's fountain pen lay where she'd left it, making even grocery lists look like laws. A drawer resisted, then sighed open. Under a dented peppermint tin, an envelope with my name in her steady hand. "Ava, if you're reading this, I trusted you more than the room. The public is not the whole story. Your mother will call this disloyal. Your brother will call it dramatic. I call it necessary. A key is sewn into the hem of the black dress I wore last Christmas. Box 317 at Heritage. Use it before they do. Do not sign what you're pressured to sign. What's inside will explain what they kept from you and what I kept for you. I love you. I'm Soda. M. I stood very still. My grandmother never apologized when she was alive. The ink leaned forward like she was trying to meet me halfway now. Her closet smelled like cedar and parties. I found the sloppy stitch by touch. The key slid into my palm. A cold fact. Footsteps moved in the hall. Celeste's low voice with Mr. Fielding's sandpaper. Clean transfer to Julian. We cannot afford ambiguity. Ambiguity. My grandmother had just given me a word for the opposite. Morning turned the house into a hive. Flowers. Trays. People who pronounce sympathy like a fee. Mr. Fielding read the will. Primary residence, business interests, endowment to the family trust. Celeste trustee, Julian successor. I heard the period land and refused to let it belong to me. Celeste squeezed my hand. "It's best. You're independent." "Independent," I said, a word that means optional when she says it. After, I asked Fielding privately. "Any codicil? Letter?" "All executed documents have been presented," he said. "Executed did too much work." I told the house I was going for air and drove to Heritage with the key burning a hole in my pocket. In the vault room, the kind with beige walls and time that belongs to banks, box 317 scraped open. Inside, a black ribbon folder, a small leather book, a flash drive. My hands reached for paper first. On top, a decades-old letter on headed paper, signed by my grandfather. "Mr. Hartwell, per our agreement, half the fundraising proceeds will be moved off book to Harbor Foundation until the redevelopment clears. Celeste is aware. Marion is not. Keep my name off anything that breathes. Ava Sinclair. Harbor Foundation. Off book. Celeste aware. My grandmother, Marion not. The leather book held neat columns. Dates, amounts, initials. J.S. Julian. C.S. Celeste. A.S. Arthur Shaw, our accountant. In the last year, my grandmother's check marks turned into small X's, as if she were quietly changing her mind, while the rest of us performed certainty. I played the audio note on the flash drive. Her voice filled my ears, clearer than the portraits, closer than memory. "If you're listening, I ran out of time to argue in person. Pride looks like protection and acts like fear. I let things happen I should have stopped. I won't let them erase you for being difficult. Ask Arthur about Harbor. Ask Camille whose name is on the quiet account. Do not sign a consolidation. I pocketed the letter copy and the drive. The vault manager appeared in the doorway. "Your mother called," he said, not sorry. "Dinner." Soup at the house tasted like obligation. Julian recited investor names, as if naming them conjured safety. Celeste cut bread like rope. After, Camille found me on the terrace. "Are you okay?" she asked softly. "Are you?" I asked back. "Julian is under pressure," she said. "From harbor." I watched her face recalibrate. "Your grandmother's files are complicated," she said. "It's better if Julian handles them." "Because I'm independent," I said. "Because this world doesn't like you," she said gently. "And you don't like it." "Whose name is on the quiet account?" I asked. She took too long to answer. "Arthur's," she said. "For now." "For now," I repeated. At 4 a.m., I woke to the click of the study door. Arthur stood beneath my grandmother's portrait, hand on the frame, like he was asking it to forgive him. "Couldn't sleep," he said. "You should try honesty," I said. He glanced at the desk. "Tomorrow, Fielding will hand you a consent to consolidate and streamline governance. Don't sign." I wasn't going to. "And if Camille asks for trust, decline that too." "Why?" "Because the person who delivers the knife is usually the one who offers to keep your hands clean." He passed me in the hall. His cologne smelled like paper and old decisions. At breakfast, Celeste wore pale blue, the color of expensive calm. She slid a document and pen across the table. "This will simplify everything," she said. "Consolidation, efficiency, signature." I folded the page once, twice. "No, Ava," she warned. "I'm following her instructions," I said. "To the letter." Celeste's smile didn't move. The muscles around it did. Julian exhaled through his nose like a man negotiating with a fire. Camille looked at the window, where the garden pretended nothing ever changed. I slipped the flash drive deeper into my pocket and felt the edges press my palm. Whatever Celeste and Julian had planned relied on me mistaking love for obedience. My grandmother had finally taught me the difference. I spent the morning pretending to help arrange flowers while counting exits. Camille moved through the kitchen with the calm of someone who's already chosen a side. She caught me staring at the arrangements: white roses, pale hydrangeas, a single branch of green like a lifeline nobody planned to use. "Your grandmother loved these," she said. "She loved order," I answered. "The flowers were collateral." Her smile barely shifted. "You're sharper when you're home." "I'm sharper when I'm cornered." Arthur texted at 10:02 a.m. Asterisk my office. No paper trail. 11 sharp. Asterisk I slipped the flash drive into my blazer pocket and told Celeste I needed coffee from town. She nodded without looking up from the guest list. A battlefield typed in 12-point font. Arthur's office sat 3 blocks from the family firm, an old brick building that smelled like ink and winter. He buzzed me in himself. No receptionist. No family portraits. Just spreadsheets stacked like sandbags. "Harbor isn't a charity," he said before Saturday. "It's a staging area. Your grandfather used it to park funds off the ledger for a redevelopment deal. When the project stalled, the temporary solution calcified into a siphon." "Who else knew?" I asked. "Your mother. Fielding. Eventually Julian," he said. "Not Marion. She believed in clean pages." I set the copied letter on his desk. My grandfather's instructions, Celeste aware, my grandmother not. Arthur stared at it like, "You look at a bridge you once built, and now need to burn." "He signed at 2 months before the stroke," he said. "After that, your mother managed the mechanics. When your grandmother started asking questions last year, Harbor became a liability. That's when I told her to document everything." "She recorded a message," I said. "She told me to ask whose name is on the quiet account." Arthur's jaw worked. "Mine." I agreed when the family was messy and needed a neutral custodian. It shouldn't have lasted this long. "Then move it," I said. "Not to Celeste. Not to Julian." "To whom?" he asked. To the trust Marion wrote and never registered, I said, sliding the leather-bound book across the desk. He flipped through the columns, seeing what I'd seen. Dates, amounts, initial check marks that turned into X's when she changed her mind. On the back page, a draft directive in her hand. Asterisk, if Ava resists consolidation, honor her as co-trustee. If she signs, she's not my granddaughter. Asterisk, a joke, except it wasn't. You have the original? Arthur asked. I have what she left me, I said, and I won't be bullied into making it smaller. He leaned back, eyes closing for a beat. When he opened them, some decision had landed. If I move funds, Celeste will notice within hours. She'll call it theft. She already stole a decade, I said. Call this a return. Arthur's mouth twitched, half a smile, half surrender. There's another thing, he said softly. Your grandmother was preparing a codicil. She died before it was executed. What did it say? He hesitated. That the house stays in trust only if 2 signatures approve any sale. Hers and yours. She's dead, I said. How does her signature approve anything now? You have the key to her approval, he said, tapping the leather book and the flash drive. Paper, voice, intent. A judge will hear it if you force the issue. My phone buzzed on the desk. Julian, asterisk lunch. Noon. Just us. Asterisk a second message from unknown. Asterisk stop dragging ghosts into this. Sign the consent. Asterisk the timing was surgical. I'll need copies of Harbor's transactions and the quiet account wiring instructions, I said, and a list of every person who touched them. Don't email me, Arthur said. Come back at 5. I'll have a drive. Thank you, I said. Don't thank me, he replied. Your grandmother is watching. I left by the back stairs. On the street, Camille waited by the curb, hands in her coat pockets as if she'd been there by accident. She fell into step beside me, without asking permission. Julian wants peace, she said. Peace is what people who are winning call a ceasefire, I said. Ava. She stopped me with the softness of her voice. If you blow this up, it won't just be your mother that gets hit. It'll be Julian. It'll be our future. Your future is built on money that doesn't belong to you, I said. That makes it a tent, not a house. She studied my face, searching for the version of me that used to say yes. Your grandmother promised me something, she said finally. A scholarship fund in my name after the redevelopment. She believed I'd steward it. Did she know you were stewarding Harbor too? Camille didn't answer. She didn't have to. Her silence was a kind of signature. Walk away from this, she said. Take what Celeste offers and walk. I tried walking, I said. All it did was make it easier to erase my footprints. She lowered her gaze. Then know this. Celeste will not lose gracefully. If you force her hand, she'll force yours. Is that a threat? It's a weather report, she said, and left me with the wind. At lunch, Julian chose a cafe, where everyone knew our last name. He ordered for me without asking. Old habit, bad memory. I let him. Because small wars drain you before the battle that matters. Fielding says you're refusing to sign, he said. I am. You don't know all the variables, he said. There are investors, timelines. Harbor, I asked. He flinched the way people flinch when a light finds their face. You're not the only one who can read, I added. He dropped his voice. This isn't the place. It never is, I said. That's why you chose it. He leaned in. Listen to me. If you just sign the consent, the rest will be simple. Mom keeps the house secure. The business interests keep producing, and you get a stipend without any of the mess. Just enough to keep me quiet, I said. Just enough to call a care. He inhaled through his nose. You're making this moral. It is. His hand flattened on the table. You're not Dad's favorite for refusing help, Ava. You're just difficult. Difficult saved me, I said. Grandmother said so herself. He stilled. She talked to you? She left me a box, I said. And a recording. Julian's composure wavered. For a moment, I saw the boy who once stole cookies from me and took the blame. Then the man returned, built from pressure and expectation. Then you know she could be cruel, he said. She dangled approval like a paycheck. Yes, I said. And I'm cashing mine now. He stared at me for a long second and sat back, defeated but not done. You'll regret this, he said quietly. You can still be part of the story. I am the story, I said and left him with the check. The house was too quiet when I returned. Celeste's car wasn't in the drive. The study doors stood open, lights on. On the desk, my grandmother's fountain pen pointed at a stack of papers that hadn't been there before. A sticky note in Celeste's neat script. Asterisk last chance, Ava. Before this turns ugly, asterisk. Next to the note sat a framed photo I had never seen. Me at 12, covered in flour, grinning at my grandfather while he dusted powdered sugar on my nose. Behind the glass, a crease ran through my face, as if someone had folded me out and put me back only when it suited them. I took the photo down and found a second paper tucked behind it. An inventory list of jewelry and small valuables removed from the safe the day after the funeral. Initials. CS, JS, CM. Not mine. The date matched the morning I was sent to pick up programs for the memorial. The front door opened. Celeste's heels announced themselves before she did. You went to Arthur, she said, entering the study. I did. And he talked. He did. She closed the distance between us to 3 feet. The length of an argument you don't want to shout. Your grandmother made mistakes, she said. I corrected them. You hid them. I prevented a scandal, she snapped. Do you think the foundation survives if Harbor is dragged into the light? Do you think this house keeps its doors? This family eats because I make sure the world never sees it bleed. I held up the inventory list. And the jewelry was triage. She didn't blink. Collateral. For whom? For all of us, she said. Because whether you like it or not, we are one story. No, I said. We're one surname. That's different. Her mouth tightened. Sign the consent. No. Her eyes flashed in a way I had only seen twice. When I left at 24, and when my father forgot their anniversary. You will not blow up what I have built, she said. I already lit the match, I said. And I'm not sorry. She reached for the papers as if she could will my name onto them. I stepped back. My phone vibrated. A new message from Arthur. Asterisk drive ready. But you're not the only one moving pieces. Asterisk. Before I could ask what that meant, an engine pulsed in the driveway. Tires on gravel. A door slam. Voices. Julian's too loud. Camille's, sauveté, urgent. And a third. Male unfamiliar, carrying that corporate politeness that smells like bleach. I went to the foyer as the front door opened. Julian stepped aside for a man in a slate suit with a Harbor lapel pin that tried to be discreet and failed. He smiled at me like we already had a contract. Ms. Sinclair, he said. I'm Mr. Hartwell. We're here to finalize a transfer. I didn't wait for another ambush at the breakfast table. After refusing to sign, I drove straight to Arthur Shaw's office downtown. No warning, no appointment. His assistant tried to block me with a polite smile and a clipboard. It's urgent, I said. Arthur appeared in the doorway, like he'd been expecting the collision. He waved me in and closed the door behind us. You brought the letter, he asked. And the drive, I said. But I want to know why you're helping me. I'm not helping you, he said. I'm protecting myself. Your grandmother warned me before she got sick. She knew Celeste and Julian were consolidating assets behind her back. Harbor was only part of it. So you knew money was being funneled out of the foundation? Yes. But your grandmother was still technically in control then. She told me to keep records off-site in case it got dirty. And Camille? I asked. Arthur hesitated. Camille signed some of the authorizations. She thinks she's securing Julian's future. She doesn't understand what Celeste is capable of. I pulled the flash drive from my coat. You know what's on this? He nodded once. Audio files and a scanned addendum your grandmother drafted but never filed with Fielding. It names you executor of her personal holdings and freezes redistribution pending review. I blinked. Executor? She never told me. She planned to. She thought she had more time. Before I could respond, his phone lit up with a call. Fielding. He let it ring out. He opened a drawer and pulled out another document. Her handwriting, smaller and sharper than the will. A provisional letter of intent, he said. Not legally final, but powerful leverage if the board sees it. I stared at it. If I use this, Celeste will come after me harder. She's already started, he said. But you're the only one Marion trusted to burn the right bridge. He folded the paper and slid it across to me. Take it, and get someone neutral, someone outside the family, to witness everything. Who? I asked. Lydia Morrow, he said. Your grandmother's former partner at the foundation. She resigned the year Celeste took over. She won't side with them. I left his office with a folder under my arm and the first real shape of a plan in my head. When I pulled into the driveway, Sophie, no makeup, hair in a knot, was waiting on the porch steps. She stood as I got out of the car. You're making everything worse, she said. I haven't even started, I replied. She crossed her arms. Julian's panicking. Mom's pretending she's not. They think you're trying to blow up the trust. I'm trying to stop them from stealing it, I said. Ava, she lowered her voice. You know Mom doesn't lose. She doesn't even believe she can. She's about to. A silence stretched between us, filled with the ghosts of arguments we never finished. Then Sophie said, If you're going to fight her, do it with proof, not whispers. I have proof. Her gaze sharpened. Then don't get caught holding it alone. Before I could answer, the front door opened. Celeste stood there, controlled as ever. Inside, she said, we need to discuss the foundation transition with Fielding. I followed her into the sitting room, where Julian was pacing and Camille sat stiffly on the edge of a chair. Fielding stood by the window, a folder under his arm. Celeste spoke first. We've decided to reorganize the family holdings for clarity. Julian will take lead as designated heir to the legacy assets. You, Ava, will receive a personal disbursement to support your independent pursuits. That's not what she wanted, I said. Fielding cleared his throat. Your grandmother's official filed documents aren't the only ones she left, I interrupted. Celeste's eyes flickered. Julian stopped pacing. I reached into my coat and placed the folded provisional letter on the table, but didn't open it. She named me executor of her personal estate. Any consolidation requires my approval. Fielding went still. Julian looked confused. Camille looked afraid. Celeste didn't blink. You don't want a war you can't win, she said softly. I already lived through the war, I replied. Now I'm just naming the casualties. Before anyone could speak, I turned and walked out. My hands were shaking, but not from fear. In my room, I locked the door and called the number Arthur had given me. Lydia Morrow speaking. This is Ava Sinclair. Marion was my grandmother. A pause, and then a shift in her tone. I heard she passed. Your mother announced a transition plan. I assume you're not calling to congratulate her. I need a witness, I said simply, and someone who knew what my grandmother really wanted. I'll meet you tomorrow, she said. Somewhere Celeste won't follow. Name it. She did. I hung up and sat on the edge of the bed. Down the hall, Camille's voice rose in anxious protest. Julian's footsteps followed, frantic, and Celeste's silence carried the weight of a verdict she'd already written. They still believed they could contain me. They hadn't yet understood. I no longer needed their permission to burn everything down. Lydia chose a place my family would never think to look. A worn brick coffee shop behind the old train station. The kind with chipped mugs and muted lamps. I got there early and chose a corner table. No joy haide, no portraites, no curate silence. She walked in 10 minutes later, tall, silver hair pulled back, expression unreadable. She didn't bother with small talk as she sat. You have something Marian left for you, she said. And you know why. I replied. I know she stopped trusting Celeste a long time ago, Lydia said. But she wasn't sure you'd come back to finish what she couldn't. I placed the provisional letter on the table, but kept my hand on it. If I move on this alone, they'll bury me in lawsuits and PR spin. You won't move on it alone, she said. There's a board review in 4 days. They think it's a formality. It isn't if someone presents evidence that funds were redirected without oversight. Harbor Foundation, I said. Lydia nodded. And the side accounts tied to Arthur and Camille. I frowned. Camille. You don't know. She studied me. Julian put assets under her name to keep them off record. He thought being engaged made her safe. He didn't consider she might keep a copy. Pieces clicked into place. Her tension, her warnings, the way she hadn't fully looked me in the eye since the will reading. If she flips, I said, they turn on her first. If she doesn't, they use her as a shield, Lydia said. Either way, Celeste wins unless you make the first strike. I exhaled slowly. I have the drive, the letter, ledger copies, but I need timing. You'll have it, she said. I'll call the board chair this afternoon. He respected Marian enough to listen, especially if you walk in with documentation and not anger. I almost laughed. They'll call me unstable anyway. Let them, she said. Just don't let them call you unprepared. When we parted, she touched my arm briefly. Marian wasn't afraid of Celeste. She was afraid of what Celeste would do to you. Outside, my phone buzzed Julian. I let it ring out, but he called again. And again. I finally answered on the 4th try. Where the hell are you? His voice shook. Not with rage, with panic. Breathing, I said. You don't understand what you're doing. He snapped. Mom's trying to fix things before this gets ugly. It's already ugly. She'll cut you out of everything if you don't cooperate. She already did, I said. She just thought I wouldn't notice. Silence, long, tight. Then he dropped his voice. You don't know what Harbor is really tied to. I know enough. No, he said, voice fraying. You don't. It's not just money. It's promises. And if you drag this out, then the people making those promises should start worrying. Camille's scared, he blurted. Mom told her if anything leaks, she takes the fall. I paused. And you're calling me to what? Save her? To tell you she didn't start it, he said. She just got pulled in. That's what happens when you marry into rot, I said. You start looking like part of the tree. He exhaled hard. Fielding is drafting something for you to sign at dinner. If you don't, Mom's going to move against you legally. She can try. You think this is about pride? She's not bluffing, Ava. She's scared too. She should be. When I returned to the house, Camille was waiting in my room. I shut the door behind me. Brave choice, I said. She stood slowly. Julian doesn't know I'm here. No one ever really knows you're anywhere, I said. Her hands twisted. I didn't know what Harbor was when I signed. Your mother said it was a temporary shelter for funds before the redevelopment. And you believed her. I believed Julian, she said quietly. And now Margaret is hinting if there's fallout, I'll be considered uninformed and therefore liable. She's setting you up, I said. She's setting everyone up, Camille corrected. I crossed my arms. Are you here to switch sides or beg me not to? She met my gaze head-on for once. I'm here to survive. If you go to war with them, show them you're not alone. Do you have anything? She reached into her coat and took out a flash drive. Arthur made backups. He didn't trust Julian not to panic. Password is the same as the Harbor account initials. TA. I guessed. She didn't even blink. Why give it to me now? I asked. Because if I give it to them, they'll destroy it. And then destroy me. She backed toward the door. You don't owe me anything. But don't walk in alone, Ava. Your grandmother didn't want you erased. She left before I could answer. Downstairs, voices swelled. Fielding had arrived. Celeste was preparing the next script. Someone knocked once on my door. Julian again. I didn't open it. I sat down on the floor beside my suitcase and plugged in the drive Camille had given me. Folders open like wounds, scan contracts, wire transfers, donor redirections, signatures signed in haste or fear, names, dates, numbers, enough to wipe out the illusion they'd built and salt the ground under it. But evidence wasn't the hardest part. Choosing when to strike was. Dinner at the house was staged like a peace offering. White china, silver cutlery, a bottle of wine my father once saved for celebrations. Celeste sat at the head of the table, like she'd never heard the word consequence. Julian kept glancing at me, as if waiting for a signal. Camille's chair was empty. Fielding arrived last, portfolio in hand. He greeted no one, just took his seat, and opened a leather folder. Celeste slid a paper toward me, without preamble. This is the revised consolidation and indemnity agreement. You'll retain a stipend and advisory title. In exchange, you will not contest the transfer of assets. In exchange, I repeated. I disappear. She smiled faintly. In exchange, you stop fighting shadows. Julian cleared his throat. It protects you too, Ava. Once it's signed, you're not liable if anything. If anything surfaces? I asked. Like Harbor. He went still. Fielding spoke carefully. If you don't sign, your mother has instructed us to move forward with a formal petition to remove you from any remaining claims. I leaned back in my chair. I met with Lydia Morrow today. Celeste's eyes sharpened. Fielding froze. Julian's hand curled. You shouldn't have dragged her into this, Celeste said. She was already in it. I replied. You just thought she'd stay quiet when Marion died. Fielding closed the folder slowly. What exactly did Lydia tell you? That she's requesting an independent audit before any redistribution, I said. She also recommended I present documentation to the board before you streamline governance. Julian looked at Fielding. Fielding looked at Celeste. Celeste didn't look away from me. You don't have the authority, she said. I pulled a single page from my pocket and placed it on the table. Marion gave it to me. Provisional intent, naming me executor of her personal estate, pending review. Fielding blanched. Celeste didn't blink, but something shifted around her eyes. You think one unsigned document changes the structure? She asked. No, I said. I think the signed ledger copies, harbor transfers, and wire logs do. Silence rippled through the room. Julian whispered, You don't want to do this. I turned to him. You don't get to tell me what I want anymore. Celeste leaned back, voice calm as a locked door. If you go public, you'll destroy our name. Our name, I said. Wasn't built by you. For the first time, she looked directly threatened. I stood. This is your chance to correct the narrative quietly. Return what was siphoned. Step down from the foundation. Let the audit happen. Or we take this to the board, the courts, and the press. Julian swallowed. Fielding stared at the table. Celeste's gaze burned through me. You won't survive the fallout, she said. I survived the family, I replied. Everything after that is strategy. I walked away before any of them could speak. In the hallway, I almost collided with Camille. She'd been listening. Her eyes were red, but her voice was steady. They won't go down clean, she said. They don't have to, I answered. They just have to go down first. She nodded once. If they turn on me, I'll testify. You just did, I said and kept walking. In my room, I packed the last of the files into a bag. My phone buzzed Lydia. Ready, her message read. Ready, I replied. Before leaving, I passed the portrait of my grandmother in the hall. For once, the expression in her painted eyes didn't feel like judgment. It felt like permission. Downstairs, someone raised their voice. Glass broke. A door slammed. The house was finally realizing it couldn't contain the truth forever. And I was finally done asking it to.